Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break from the demo and do a quick Photoshop tip to talk about how we use adjustment layers to go from an overcast lighting setup into a direct lighting setup. And this can work for a number of different lighting setups, but we just wanted to show you some of the tools that we use within Photoshop. So if you go to your layer palette, you'll see at the bottom there's a circle kind of half filled. If you click on that, it brings up a menu. And under this, there's all sorts of things like brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, hue, saturation. Hopefully you've played with these things. It's a similar thing that you might find under image adjustments. Excuse me. And you'll see all of those same things. The nice thing about adjustment layers is that you can create these adjustments in a layer that has a mask. So let's go to Hue Saturation. And what's nice is you can always kind of turn them on or off, or really kind of fine tune how that adjustment will be applied to the layers below. So hue saturation, because it's a black and white document, hue is not going to affect anything, saturation is not going to affect anything, but lightness will. So if we kind of take this ambient light setup and darken it, we're going for basically our shadow value, what this whole scene might look like in shadow. So I'm going to go somewhere in here, and I'm going to start with a quick grad. So we know how masks work, just to go over that again really quick. Whatever's black will kind of keep the layer from being applied, and whatever's white will fully apply the layer that the mask is attached to all the layers below. So for instance, if I fill this with or do a grad from black to white, you'll see that this grad matches from the mask, matches its effectiveness of this layer. And I'll take that and load this guy and create a quick cast shadow and fill that. Oops, fill that all up. And then so basically, this is the layer being fully applied here. So the cast shadow is created from that in this overall shadow. I'm just going to do a quick grad just to do this quickly in that adjustment layer. So if you look at the mask, this is kind of what the mask looks like. White being where the adjustment layer is being fully applied, and black being where it's not. You could see that ends up with something like this. What's nice about this is we can always go back and play with how this adjustment layer, now that we know have its mask cut out, how it what that actual adjustment layer is doing after the fact, which is great. And you could see what's nice about this is that in the shadow side, we've managed to maintain that contact shadow. We don't have to repaint that, redo anything. And in a quick way, we quickly got a direct light setup. Now, it's a lot of times we'll create an adjustment layer specific to a light source. Right now we have this direct light that's hitting, but what about light that's bouncing off the surface? We'll create oftentimes another adjustment layer. So if I go ahead and grab another, let's grab another hue sat layer, and let's do a little bit of lightness. And this is basically representational of the bounce light, let's say, for instance. I'm going to go ahead and fill my mask with black, which means this adjustment layer will not be affecting at all the image. And then I'm going to go into that mask, click on that mask, make sure you have that mask selected, and paint in some of this bounce light. Smudge that around a little bit, soften it out. And you can see it's not quite what I want, so I might brighten it a bit. Something like that. And you get the idea. Like for the bounce light, I've created a new adjustment layer, which is nice because I could turn the bounce light on and off when I need to. Also, the nice thing is that I can also take these two layers, turn them off, and I'm back to my overcast lighting setup. Great. And so that's basically how we use adjustment layers. And you can do this with any of the things, any of these that are going under here. It gets a lot more interesting as we move into color. But for black and white, I think that's a good entry point into using adjustment layers. All right, back to the demo.
Okay, so now you're getting pretty close to the end of diffuse lighting, and whoa.
Yeah, so this is where we're starting to use adjustment layers to relight. And so you can see in the reference image, we've turned a spotlight on.
Yeah.
Right? We brought a spotlight. It's just a simple desk lamp, but we brought a desk lamp in to relight the scene. So this is a pretty complex lighting setup. We have light coming from the window still from the left, but from the right now we have a spotlight that's actually counter to all the light setup we had in the previous version of this painting. So we're using adjustment layers. Largely the first bit of adjustment layer that we had was basically to establish a shadow side. So right now I'm actually painting out the shadows, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So overall, that adjustment layer I had created a shadow, and now I'm painting back out a shadow. And you can see it's not perfect at all, but it's starting to get me to think about this adjustment layer as a light. And you can see here I've added another adjustment layer on top of that.
So overlay.
Yes, that is brighter.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start to paint in, really solidify that light on the light side. So you can see here it's really going to start to take form as far as this other light coming in from the right side.
I see. So this is a direct light. So that's something that we haven't been studying, but compared to our diffuse lighting setup, it has sharper cast shadows and it has a much more definitive direction. That's what's being created by spotlight.
Yes,
you turned on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and these are, keep in mind, these objects, this is the other thing, these objects are pretty matte objects. They're not reflective objects. It is direct light, but we're not going to get any real hot highlights, I think, off of these objects. These are all objects that are pretty rough surfaces that are doing a pretty good job of keeping, they're not reflective surfaces, so there's not going to be kind of a reflection of the light source, which is what a highlight is. But you can see here, there is a definite difference between direct light and diffuse light.
Yeah.
You can see right away there's some hard edges in the shadows. Really, these cast shadows are really important to help describe.
Yeah.
But keep in mind too, it doesn't, because you turn the direct light on, it's not like the diffuse light went away. So the diffuse light is still there. And there is a bit of exposure happening here, right?
Exposure.
Where it's not like this scene got darker. We've added a light to it. So it's actually gotten brighter overall. But I want to maintain kind of the value relation, like a value structure within this, that there's a dark, a medium, and a light overall. And so what that means is that the overcast light is now being overpowered by this desk lamp. This desk lamp is actually brighter than the overcast light that's coming in from the window. So overall, the same sort of value relationships within the shadow side are still there. So that's the diffuse light coming in from the window. Those value relationships are still there. In other words, how a dark relates to a light surface under this overcast light, the kind of relationship between them maintains the same, but overall I've darkened it all, right? That was that first adjustment layer. And now in introducing kind of the other light, that is now brighter. So I've added adjustment layers that are much brighter than what we have established by the shadow adjustment layers. And then of course, now I'm getting back in and actually just painting on top of it. It's just, you don't have to do everything with the adjustment layers, but it got me quite a bit there very quickly. I didn't lose my drawing, which was nice. I didn't have to redraw, repaint a whole lot of things. It was really just playing with the stuff that was there. That's what's so great about adjustment layers, is that you're really just playing with what's there. So now I'm going back in and just adjusting the paint.
Yeah. So you can really kind of turn back and forth between this lit version versus the unlit version, as if like you're turning, almost animating the light switch.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Which is really, for us, it's great to really understand. For me, fundamentally understanding what's going on with this light, this is a great way of learning what exactly this light is doing. It's really forcing me to observe the light. In the work that I do professionally for entertainment work, this is an extremely valuable tool because now you have the control to manipulate lights, to move a light within a scene. So, a lot of times we focus on different aspects of, what a design might be. We focus on the shapes and forms in one study, and then in a next stage of creating this work, we might focus specifically on the lighting, which means that we may have to move the light, change the intensity of the light. And this is what's great about it, is that you don't have to start back at square one all the time. You really have a nice solid foundation to manipulate the light into whatever it is you feel like you want to. And you could see as you flip back and forth, it really does feel like a light is turning on and off.
That's really cool. Yeah, this technique is something that really worked out well for us when we made the Dam Keeper. And we thought it would be very helpful to share this because it's really almost like a 3D lighting, right? Like you have this sort of generic white light render, and then you give it to lighting department, and the lighting department does this beautiful lighting job. And we're gonna be doing a lot of these, both black and white and color. I think it'll be really fun. Beautiful.
Hey, so not hey. That's horrible.
That's good.
Yeah. So this is the conclusion of our fourth lesson, lighting.
Yeah, I hope you had a fun, or maybe it might have been frustrating. I'm not sure, but you saw me doing the direct painting, and then Robert doing first overcast, the diffuse lighting, and switched into adjustment layer lighting technique.
Yeah, I think overall, we're going to keep focused on observation. These are two different techniques, but I think the key about this is we're presenting two ways to think about lighting. I think overall, try and keep it simple. I think it's easy to get swept up. I know I get swept up in kind of overcomplicated scenes, overcomplicated lighting. Try to stick to kind of one light source, one direct light source, and keep it simple at first.
With that, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, let's paint.